Greetings all! Today, we will be examining the common water-type Pokemon Poliwag, its relatively uncommon evolution Poliwhirl, its rare water-fighting type evolution Poliwrath, the three collectively known as the Tadpole Pokémon, and its other pure water-type rare final evolution Politoed, the Frog Pokémon. Though they might not always be seen as the most gifted of fighters in every sense, the members of the Poliwag family are still hardy beasts that can more than use the power of the water, muscle, and hypnosis to daze and obliterate anything that dares to stand up against them. Poliwag possess small, bluish-black round bodies with a single pair of flat feet they use for locomotion on land, and a long tail with a thin, dark center and a paler white color on its fringed edges that they use as a rudder and additional source of momentum while swimming. They have a single pair of black eyes and a small pink mouth, and the front of their body is adorned with a white and black marked spiral pattern on their belly, which actually serves as a window into their insides. Their evolved form, Poliwhirl, have the same general body form, though they have developed a pair of upper limbs that end in fist-like single-digit appendages that can open and close and grip things very much like hands, and have completely lost their tail. The rest of their form is identical to that of Poliwag, though it is noted that the direction of the swirl pattern on their belly reverses in evolution, helping to distract others and hide the otherwise gaping maws that are located on the upper edges of this belly pattern. Their first evolved form, Poliwrath, are almost identical in form to Poliwhirl, but they possess a much larger, bulkier form and have a pair of visible nostrils near their more pinprick black eyes. Their hands now have 3 fingers each and are much larger in size, allowing Poliwrath to make good use of their powerful fighting-type attacks to deal devastating damage in battle. Their other final evolution, Politoed, look more like a frog than any other member of their family, with a green body color and yellow markings of flesh on their spiral belly, feet, and lower jaw. They have 3 toes on each of their limbs and visible nostrils and mouth, with black eyes, pink cheek markings that are larger in males compared to females, and a blue curled hair that sprouts from the top of their head that is generally used as a status symbol among their kind. The members of the Poliwag family are unique in that they have managed to develop in a way that makes it possible for them to live and reach an adult form without ever actually becoming true adults. These creatures are supposed to be frogs biologically, but they have evolved so they are able to remain in a tadpole stage as adults in most of their forms, and survive and reproduce just fine without much trouble. This is in due part to the immediate possession of both gills and lungs when they are born, allowing them to live in both the water and on land equally, though they would generally prefer to live in the water at a young age as a result of their skin being easily dried out in the open air. Moreover, because these creatures are not born in huge numbers like traditional tadpoles are born in, they are quite capable as young, and are able to defend themselves from attack readily after they are born, though their overall battle performance against larger, more powerful creatures might not be that great. These Pokemon are in their element in the water, where they can use their powerful swimming abilities to catch fish Pokemon to feed on, and in general, move quite fast through the water. On land, these creatures are a bit more clumsy at a young age, and generally only go onto land to feed on insects, which make ready and easy meals for them, excreting a thick oil that helps to not only keep their sensitive skin from easily being damaged by UV radiation and or dried out, turning their black skin a blue color, but also serves to make them slippery and hard to grasp, giving them an additional tool they can use against those that would dare to try and hunt them down. Because these creatures rely on both water and this thick oil to keep them hydrated and protected from harm, the members of the family can possess the water absorb and damp abilities as base abilities, while most members of the family are also able to use their swimming abilities to make good use of water to move faster, allowing them to have access to the swift swim ability as a hidden ability. Politoed are the one exception to this rule, as they are able to use weak telekinetic power to summon rainstorms in some cases to increase the power of their water-type attacks, in turn granting them access to the rare drizzle ability as a hidden ability. In terms of stats, it can be said that the 2 different evolutions of this family, Poliwrath and Politoed, are radically different from one another in terms of stats and the kinds of powers they specialize in. On the one hand, Poliwrath are not the fastest or the most offensively powerful Pokemon of their type, but they do show a surprising resilience to their form and are able to take a hit quite nicely with plenty of stamina to spare, granting them above average base HP defense and special defense stats for a fully evolved water and fighting type Pokemon, with their base attack stat additionally being above average for a fully evolved water type Pokemon. On the other hand, with Politoed, their attributes lean more towards the special side of things, with stronger special stats than their counterpart, while retaining a good deal of stamina, possessing above average base HP, special attack, and special defense stats for a fully evolved water-type Pokemon. Everything else in both of these evolutions is below average. As such, while they might not come off initially as a severe threat, these tadpoles and frogs can make themselves a nuisance when they want to, and ultimately prove to be tough customers to have to handle. When Poliwag are first born, they are generally quite weak, and do not have much to work with outside of weak moves like Water Gun and Bubble for offense. Moreover, while they do have legs to stand and walk around on outside of the water, they do not have a good sense of balance without arms to stabilize them, so they tend to be rather clumsy on land and fall down quite a bit. They will thankfully get better at doing this the more they practice though, so experienced walkers are often those that are close to the point of evolution. Despite their small size, these creatures are actually quite nimble in the water and can outspeed a lot of other young water types easily, which helps them immensely as they are not able to defend themselves in the water so much, preferring to swim away from major threats. This is not so much an option when out of the water, but these creatures do have a few advantages that can make them tricky customers to deal with. For one thing, although their skin is quite thin, it is extremely durable and flexible, so sharp points are more likely to bounce off of their flesh than actually pierce it. Secondly, there is the swirl on their belly which, as disgusting as it may sound, is actually an imprint of their spiral gut, the skin being so thin that their insides are visible through it. This not only helps to deter predators, but, in combination with the release of a weak electromagnetic force, allows these creatures to utilize a poor man's version of the hypnosis technique, enabling them to put others to sleep and make a quick escape. Interestingly, this spiral is known to be affected by the location relative to the equator, rotating counterclockwise in the northern hemisphere and clockwise in the southern hemisphere, and while it is unknown why this is the case, it does make it easy for experts to identify where in the world they were born in, plus it serves as a way of gauging their health, as the pattern becomes the most visible after they have eaten and will turn a milky white if they are afflicted with some sort of disease. Overall, these little tadpoles are far more of a threat than they might initially seem, and cute Pokemon for water-type enthusiasts to work with at a young age. Poliwhirl are at an advantage compared to their pre-evolved form, in that they develop a pair of arms with fists when they evolve, allowing them to more readily balance themselves and make it easier for them to move both in and out of the water. However, because of their added mass and size, there is an equal reduction in their movement speed from having to lug their mass around, so their base speed stat does not change in evolution, even if everything else does. In this state, these creatures still prefer to live in the water, but in their case, it is mainly because they have fewer predators to worry about in the water, and can easily take insect prey that they capture on the land into the water to drown them, enabling them to target larger insects and especially bug-type Pokemon to make a meal out of. These creatures still excrete a thick, slippery oil over their bodies when they are on land, though the oil is at its thinnest at their stomachs and in turn makes it clear and smooth to the touch, and utilize a poor man's version of the hypnosis technique using their exposed innards, though in their case, they are more effectively able to use the move by undulating their insides using stronger internal muscles, oftentimes grossing others out at the very least if their technique fails. The fact that these creatures are able to use their limbs to attack means that they can get access to some interesting moves like Mud Shot and Mud Bomb that, while learnable by Poliwag, are more effectively used by the evolution thanks to these limbs, providing them a natural weapon to use against any electric-type Pokemon that tries to battle against them. As the normal adults of this family, these Pokemon might not be incredibly strong, but they are still more formidable than their adorable appearance might suggest, and more than able to make good use of their double slap and body slam attacks to pulverize lesser enemies. Normally, Poliwhirl are unable to evolve and exist as the adult form of their family, but their bodies will mutate in response to the presence of certain items. First of all, if these creatures are exposed to the radiant energy of a water stone, it causes the muscle mass in their body to increase tremendously and effectively destroy any body fat that they have, growing considerably in size and becoming a being of pure muscle known as Poliwrath. As with most stone-based evolutions, these creatures are unable to learn most of the moves that Poliwag and Poliwhirl have access to, but they at least retain access to the hypnosis technique and gain some new powers as a result. Due to the sheer amount of muscle mass in their bodies relative to their overall weight, these monsters are able to use their fists to deliver devastating strikes through their submission, dynamic punch, and circle throw attacks, the first of them being learned immediately upon evolving from Poliwhirl, and they are so proficient at these moves that Poliwrath are considered to be secondary fighting types. Their dynamic punch attack is especially deadly, as they also naturally learn the Mind Reader technique, ensuring that the otherwise highly inaccurate attack always hits to deal massive damage and confuse whatever it touches. While all of this added bulk actually slows them down and results in a moderate drop in their base speed stat in evolving, forcing them to evolve into better swimmers to make up for this, all of their other stats increase noticeably, and it makes Poliwrath one of the strongest water-type Pokemon known. With their powerful muscles, these creatures are able to swim for incredibly long periods of time, able to regenerate skeletal muscle tissue instantly like the members of the Machop family, and thus never fatigue, and using their skin to constantly bring in fresh oxygen so they can move incredible distances in a single breath, in particular specializing in the front crawl and the breaststroke. These creatures cannot be outsped by any human swimmer, being seen to sometimes tread water with their flat feet, if only for a few fractions of a second, and swim lengths as great as the entire Pacific Ocean by only kicking their feet, and are so effective in their movements that they are often observed and watched by those that wish to learn how to swim as a guide, especially in the Alola region, making them valuable partners to have around if you're a swim instructor, and as a whole, tough customers to tackle in almost any circumstance where a significant type advantage is not present. Surprisingly though, it is lastly noted that, unlike their pre-evolved forms, these creatures prefer to live on dry land where they can make the most of their powers, reducing boulders to dust with a single square punch and serving to render them a physical threat worth fearing in battle. Secondly, if Poliwhirl are instead exposed to certain chemicals found in King's Rocks, and the object's compounds are fused to them through the use of a trading device, they will instead physically mature like they would normally do and instead evolve into Politoed. These frogs act as commanders of their lesser Poliwag and Poliwhirl brethren, as their croaking cries are enough to summon armies of these creatures to their side and make them cower in fear, even though the sounds are said to be quite melodic to them. Though, for humans, their cries are incredibly loud, bellowing, and sound fairly angry, and not that pleasant as distinctive as they are. Some composers have taken their sounds as inspiration from music of their own, however, especially in ballads, so their cries are not completely unwanted as a whole. Thankfully, they will usually only go all out in their singing when there are 3 or more of them present on moonlit nights, and their relative rarity makes this unlikely to happen under normal circumstances, but it nonetheless does make them potentially dangerous, as it grants them access to the Perish Song technique soon after evolving, as well as the Hyper Voice attack later in life. They can further use their bodies to deliver potent bounce attacks, but their weaker physical stats compared to Poliwrath make the move less than useful in most cases. While they don't have much else going for them in terms of pure power, these creatures are at least noteworthy in one other respect, namely being the lone hair on their body. This large, curly structure is mainly used as both the source of their swagger technique and a status symbol of sorts, as the longer and more luxuriously curled it is, the more respect that a specimen garners from its peers, and the more Poliwag and Poliwhirl it can call to its aid when needed, helping to show who is truly the king of the pond. While they might not be the most straightforward of amphibian Pokemon in terms of their biology and evolutionary development, the members of the Poliwag family are still unique creatures that can definitely make their presence known both in and out of the water. You might have to get a hold of a rare Waterstone or King's Rock in order to make the most of their power, but this can be more than made worthwhile once you see the kind of offense and power they can bring to the table. Just do yourself a favor and try not to interrupt these creatures while they are training or just trying to relax. Either way you look at it, in a fully evolved state, you are looking for trouble, which will come to you either in the form of a bone-shattering punch to the face, or by having your eardrums blown out by the loud and bellowing voices of these monsters when developing into a fully fledged frog. Thank you all for watching this video. It is always an honor to be able to speak with you all on the subject of Pokemon in a way that brings me great joy and happiness in my work. If you would like to keep tabs on past and future work, click that subscribe button, check out my work on DeviantArt, and don't be shy about following me on Twitter, where you can find pertinent announcements on upcoming work before it is officially posted. Links to both can be found in the video description. If you would like to support my work and help Miguel and I continue to produce more content for you and improve upon our presentation, please visit us at my Patreon page, which you can also find a link to in the video description. With that, I thank you for watching and I wish you well.